Before starting this video, consider joining my new Discord server and becoming a Patreon. There are definitely some really awesome people on this Discord, and we talk about new spoilers and some deck advice. We do have an awesome time on there, so come by and check it out. I do want to give a shout out to my supporters on Patreon. We do have Toadsavelt, who is a Galta tier member. So if you want to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon. There are some great benefits for you. So with that out of the way, let's get into this week's video. So what's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today on PubStomp MTG. Glad to have you here. Today we're going to be looking at this awesome new Orzov commander with Rodolf, Duskbringer. With the holidays in full effect, I feel like it's hard not to say Rudolph, like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but I'm definitely going to refrain from trying to make that joke too many times. But let's look at this awesome legendary vampire angel. It reads Flying, Death Touch, and Lifelink, which is great stats just right there alone. It has a great body, and typically people won't want to trade some of their creatures for that Death Touch ability right there. It also does read, whenever you gain life, Rodolf Duskbringer gains indestructible until end of turn, and at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1 in Orzov colors. When you do, return target creature card with mana value X or less for your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So the game plan is pretty obvious. We're going to be going for a life gain theme here. I do like this in some scenarios where someone is trying to remove your commander by a destroy spell, but you could just cast a revitalize to make sure it's indestructible. But I would say this is a very interesting commander for reanimating. However, let's first talk about the tribal support, because I do like having a little tribal support theme. It's vampire angels, so we're going to have a lot of different options there. So since we're in a life gain theme, Vito the Thorn of the Dusk Rose is absolutely perfect in here, because we could drain our opponents little by little, because whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. And if you also want to give all your creatures lifelink, this is a great option right here. Another great card I did want to mention in this list would be Blood Artist. This is pretty great in here because whenever another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life, so that's very important for gaining 1 life. So if someone, for example, is going to try to destroy your commander, you could easily destroy another target creature on the battlefield so that you could gain life to make your commander indestructible. Also, I did think of adding Varrock Warped Sengir in here as well. I mainly like it for doubling up on our fetch lands so that we could have 2 lands come on the battlefield instead, because our commander is pretty heavily mana costed, so we want to make sure we can get him on the battlefield as soon as we can. But this list is not going to have so much vampires, because I feel like there's going to be a better angel theme in here, because there's a lot of interesting angels to add into this list. I did, however, want to talk about some utility angels that are great overall in any kind of deck. The first angel I did want to mention in here would be Gadia, Font of Hope. She acts as a mana dork. Also on top of that, buffs our angels when they enter the battlefield when tapping for that mana. So this was definitely an easy include. Another easy include I would add into this list would be Sarah Paragon. This has an amazing ability to revive fetch lands or cards that have mana value 3 or less that are permanents. So another awesome card to make sure that you could resurrect some of your fetch lands to get some extra value there. Another fantastic include in here would be Battle Angels of Here. It just has a Yu-Gi-Oh sized paragraph when it reads. It's essentially one of those catch-up white cards. You could draw more cards, make a treasure token, and also gain life as well with this card. Plus it does have Myriad, so you can just get more value on top of that. So this is absolutely amazing in here. So moving along, we do have our commander having a fantastic, and I mean a really great ability of resurrecting our cards from the graveyard onto the battlefield. I mentioned these a lot in a lot of my reanimation deck text, but we do have Auric Loremage, Violent Tumor, and Tomb and Unmarked Grave. These will definitely provide you a way so that you can get that perfect kind of creature onto the battlefield with your commander's ability so that you could try to win the game that way. Also, I thought of a little bit of a self-mill theme. I thought of Cemetery Tampering and also Angel of Suffering. I would say the big reason why I have Cemetery Tampering in this list is because at the beginning of your upkeep, you may mill 3 cards. To be honest, that's the only reason why I want that in this list, is because it has that great value of milling each of our turns. Also, if you get hit a lot from your opponents, Angel of Suffering is absolutely great, because if damage will be dealt to you, prevent that damage and mill twice that many cards. So I would say this is definitely an easy include, because it also is an angel as well. But let's go back to angels. Let's talk more about them, because I feel like, again, this is going to be the main focus of the deck. So the first card I did want to mention would be Celestine, the Living Saint. This has a very similar effect to our commander. When we gain life, we could return a creature from the graveyard to the battlefield based off how much life we gained that turn. Another card I did want to mention would be Resplendent Angel. So since we're gaining so much life from our commander and from a lot of different things, if we gain 5 or more life this turn, we can create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. It is very easy to pull that off, so we'll definitely make a lot of 4/4 white angel creature tokens, and it does have that buff ability, +2/+2 engage lifelink. Another similar card would be Valkyrie Harbinger. It has that same ability ability of making a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance as long as you gain 4 or more life this turn. And we did get a huge reprint from the Jumpstart with Lyra Dawnbringer. If there ever was a card to bring into this deck, it would be Lyra Dawnbringer because it has a crazy ability of other angels you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. So all your angels would get that buff, and it does have some pretty great stats of flying, first strike, and lifelink as well. So another angel I had to include in this list would be Righteous Valkyrie. It has that great ability of whatever another angel or cleric, we're not going to worry about clerics too much, enter the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. So we have a lot of angels that have big fat toughness, and on top of that, as long as you have at least 7 or more life than your starting life total, creatures you control get +2/+2. Normally I wouldn't think that would go off, but I feel like with this kind of deck, with how much life we're gaining, we're going to get that Anthem for sure. So let's move on from angels. Let's talk about some really interesting synergies with our commander, and that synergy is board wipes. If we do gain life on our turn, we could easily put a board wipe on the battlefield and have our commander gain indestructible. So we could easily slot in some cards like Doomscar, Wrath of God, Damn, and Vanquish the Horde. So you're probably wondering, I don't want to board wipe my own creatures. Well, if you do, you can easily reanimate them later with your commander's ability. I just thought this would be an interesting strategy. It almost feels like an Avacyn deck a little bit, but it is different, trust me. We're not running any land destruction. But let's talk about some interesting scenarios that you may come across with your commander that I've kind of come up with. So I mentioned before in the beginning of the video, if someone targets your commander with Infernal Grasp, you could easily have a Revitalize in your hand to cast it, you gain 3 life, and then your commander would gain indestructible because of that. Also, if someone tries to destroy your commander, you could easily have a Blood Artist on the battlefield and then try to destroy someone else's creature or your own creature if you need to, so that you can get your commander indestructible that way. But I would say an absolute incredible card in here would be Campbell, Consult of Accolation. Again, we're going to go to that Infernal Grasp scenario where someone's going to try to destroy your commander. Well, if Campbell's on the battlefield, whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So since on that cast you gain 2 life, your commander would automatically get indestructible, and that kind of counts for any kind of scenario. With Campbell, if someone wants to board wipe, Campbell triggers and then gets your commander indestructible. So I feel like this is a fantastic include in this deck. I would say it's one of the better ones to protect your commander, weirdly enough. So I'm going to wrap up my video, so let me know what your final thoughts are on Rodolf Duskbringer. The unfortunate part about this, it is a 6-cost commander and we're not in green, so we're not going to be able to ramp hard enough for this commander to get on the battlefield early. But I do feel like it has some really great abilities so that when it enters the battlefield, it will be a force to be reckoned. But let me know down below, what are your thoughts about Rodolf Duskbringer? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. That's definitely the best way to support the channel. And with that out of the way, thank you for stomping by.